wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life. This is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic podcast. I'm Steve, and I'm a fellow voyager on this ship of the Prokopton, if you will, the one who makes progress. Hopefully we are making progress, but today we get a reality check from Epictetus. He warns us that if we want to truly be philosophers, that we're going to have to sacrifice. And so take this to heart. Listen to what he says and see if you are living up to what he says. I know I am falling short. I think in this next year I need to try harder. You know, New Year's are always times for resolutions and things, but I think it's the year of the Prokopton. How are we going to progress in the next year? Not to just talk about philosophy, but how are we going to start living it? And I'll have some ideas on ways we could measure, how we can assess our progress after the readings. The Discourses of Epictetus, Book 2, Number 18, How to Fight Against Impressions. With these thoughts to defend you, you should triumph over any impression and not be dragged away. Don't let the force of the impression, when first it hits you, knock you off your feet. Just say to it, "Hold on a moment. Let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test." Next, don't let it pull you in by picturing to yourself the pleasures that await you. Otherwise it will lead you by the nose wherever it wants. Oppose it with some good and honorable thought, and put the dirty one to rout. Practice this regularly, and you'll see what shoulders, what muscles, what stamina you require. Today, people care only for academic discussion, nothing beyond that. But I'm presenting to you the real athlete, namely the one training to face off against the most formidable of impressions. The Enchiridion by Epictetus, chapter 29. Reflect on what every project entails in both its initial and subsequent stages before taking it up. Otherwise, you will likely tackle it enthusiastically at first, since you haven't given thought to what comes next. But when things get difficult, you'll wind up quitting the project in disgrace. You want to win at the Olympics? So do I. Who doesn't? It's a glorious achievement, but reflect on what's entailed both now and later before committing to it. You have to submit to discipline, maintain a strict diet, abstain from rich foods, exercise under compulsion at set times in weather hot and cold, refrain from drinking water or wine whenever you want. In short, you have to hand yourself over to your trainer as if he were your doctor. And then there are digging contests to endure, and times when you will dislocate your wrist, turn your ankle, swallow quantities of sand, be whipped, and end up losing all the same. Consider all this, and if you still want to, then give athletics a go. If you don't pause to think, though, you'll end up doing what children do, playing at wrestler 1 minute, then gladiator, then actor, then musician, and you're an athlete now, next to gladiator, an orator, a philosopher, but nothing with all your heart. You're like a monkey who imitates whatever it happens to see, infatuated with one thing after another. You haven't approached anything attentively or thought things through. Your approach to projects is casual and capricious. Some people likewise see a philosopher or hear someone like Euphrates lecture. Only who can lecture like him? And get in their heads to become philosophers too. Listen, friend, research the role, then assess your capacity to fill it, just as you assess your arms, thighs, and back if you hope to be a wrestler. We are not all cut out for the same thing. Do you think that as a philosopher you can eat and drink, or exercise desire and aversion as you do at the present? You have to stay up nights, put up with pain, leave your family, be looked down on by slaves, suffer ridicule from strangers, be outdone in status, in power, in legal matters, get the worst of it. In other words, down to the last little thing. Ponder whether you're prepared to pay this price for serenity, freedom, and calm. If not, then, don't go near it. Don't, like little children, be a philosopher now, a tax officer later, then an orator or politician. These roles don't mix. You have to be one person, good or bad. You have to care either for your mind or for material things. Specialize in what is within you or without, which is to say, you have to stick to your role of philosopher or layman.
Wow, did you see that documentary on Tuvan throat singing last week? I think that's what I'm gonna start doing. Maybe I should play guitar. But I don't really want to learn all the scales and notes. I just want to make noise. I could try meditation.
Relax. Breathe deeply. Become aware.
I wonder how long it takes
of
for this
your
meditation thing to
head,
kick
and slowly
in.
scan down
Man, I sure do like the color
all
blue.
way to your toes.
I wonder how MacGyver would have gotten out of a room if it was surrounded by zombies.
Eyes, your nose,
I wonder how they make chicken pot
your
pie.
mouth,
Is it really a pie?
your jaw,
Oh, I better get back to my
your
meditation.
neck, and moving downward to your shoulders.
You know what would really make me happy? A kayak. If I had a kayak, I could go fishing all the time.
1 year later.
I've used my kayak a whole one time this year. Boy, sure to get my money's worth out of that one. I know what I should do. I should learn how to play didgeridoo. Alright, I admit it. All of these things are true about me. I've done all of these things, some to greater success than others. The kayak thing, all too true. I used it twice. It's hanging in my shed, and I still intend to go out in it, but the pleasure it promised has not lived up to the amount of use I've really gotten out of it. I should have examined that impression further and really question, do you really have time to go out kayaking right now? No. Why are you spending this money? I should have torn that apart. Now, guitar, I still enjoy guitar. I am by no means a musician. I have not put in the time to learn enough to call myself that. I haven't committed fully, as Epictetus tells us. I have not embraced it fully, but I do still, get it out and do family sing-alongs with Johnny Cash songs and things like that. But I do shift from time to time or get little passions. Oh, I really need this. I need that. If I change this, I could be happier. And I'm always reaching for things, reaching out, overextending myself, reaching for new happiness. And what we learn from this reading is happiness is not in the things we reach for. It's in our foundation. It's where our feet are planted, where happiness comes from. Happiness comes from our foundation, not the objects that we reach for. So Epictetus tells us to prepare to be a philosopher is like preparing to be an athlete. We're training for the Olympian Olympian competition here, and we're not training to wrestle. We're training to tear our impressions apart and to always be on our toes, to not get carried away with impressions, and to be willing to supplement thoughts that aren't really true with more pleasant, more positive thoughts that will supplant those thoughts that are pushing us in the wrong direction. So this kayak would make me happy could be supplemented with, you should be happy with what you have. Spend time with your wife and child. That will make you happy. Or perhaps upon weighing it out, you'll decide, well, okay, I would use a kayak quite a lot, and then you go for it. But that doesn't mean you never pursue these things, but you weigh them out carefully. Oh, this meeting with my boss tomorrow will be a disaster. Or you could tell yourself, it's just a meeting with your boss. it might go great. I could ask for a raise. If it does go poorly, so what? I've worked other jobs before. I can work another job again. He warns us that we must go beyond academic discussion and actually apply the philosophy, something I know I really need to do a better job of. I talk about it. I am like the sheep that vomits up its grass every Sunday. Am I making progress? Well, I need a way to measure that. I want to talk about that in a minute. We can ask ourselves, are we cut out for this? Maybe Stoicism isn't for us. A wrestler can say, am I willing to go through all this training, lose fights, etc., to be an athlete? And they can work on answering that question. They can say, am I strong enough to be a wrestler? You can ask yourself, am I cut out for being strict with myself? Maybe going without certain kinds of food or going and deliberately living a hard life for a week or two to acclimate myself, undergoing a hard winter training, as Epictetus might say. Am I going to sleep on the floor occasionally? Am I going to change my diet, change what I drive, change who I talk, change all kinds of things about me because I have a new foundation on which to stand that has changed who I am? Not in a way that's making me a weirdo, right? But making me someone with principles. And we must be aware that we might be changed by this philosophy in such a way that those people we used to be regarded by now think we're weird or they don't want to talk to us. And maybe we don't want to hang out with them. Maybe we know now that they will influence us in a way that will lead us astray. So we have to be willing to acknowledge that. We might have to be willing to acknowledge, hey, maybe the true good is not in trying to keep up with my sister and have a bigger house or a bigger yard or a better car. Maybe that's not where happiness lies. Maybe I can pursue a different route. So we must be consistent, not having a change in whim any way the wind blows, like a little child who's a fireman, then an astronaut, then a cowboy, then whatever. We are who we are, and we use Stoicism to help maintain that course and to help define who we are. But more importantly, it's like an assessment tool. We can check in on ourselves. Are we consistent? Do we need to change? And I like to think about that. I should do a whole episode on this. If you have any recommendations on ways to monitor your progress, let me know. Here's what I'm thinking. In education, we do a lot of what they call assessments. Like, your students should know this, and this at the end of the semester. They should be able to do this, and this. Well, you can give them a test. You can give them some kind of assignment to see if they really can do those things. Well, you can assess progress. For example, if you are truly making progress, you will change, right? So what could I assess about myself? I could look back in my journal and see if I've done the things around the house that I promised to do, being more just to my family. I could see if my Amazon.com orders have dropped in the last year or two, or if I'm maintaining the same desire for things that I've always had. I could look at how my checkbook's doing. Am I spending less money on frivolous things, right? Or am I blowing money just like I was before? And if I haven't changed, either I have to say, all right, I'm not cut out for Stoicism, or I have to say, I am failing here. I need to work on these things. So what are ways we could assess our progress? As someone who's trying to make progress, how could we assess whether or not we are? If you have any ideas, email me, sundaystoic@gmail.com, or call the phone number at the end of the podcast here. Ian, an awesome listener in Canada, recorded some intros and outros for me, and I'm eternally grateful. I'm also grateful to my patrons, by the way. Without them, you would not be hearing my voice. If you want to join the show, support the show, check out patreon.com/SundayStoic. And also, there's another thing I'm going to ask of you. Hate asking too much of you, but there is a survey in the show notes that you could fill out to help determine future episodes, maybe the course of the show. What I'm going to do is put out show 100 soon, and then I'm going to take a break, like, let's say 2-3 weeks. I'll have an exact date probably figured out in episode 100. So I will be gone for a bit. I've put out a show every Sunday since I started, and now we're going to take a little break, a creative break, assess the situation, figure out what I can update, change, or whether to keep doing exactly what I'm doing, and kind of rejuvenate a bit, and then we'll start back into it after that. So, help support the show. Email me with ideas, and if you happen to want to say hi for the 100th episode, record a voicemail or shoot me an email, and you can end up on the 100th episode. But that's all I got for this week. Are you ready to put in the work, as one of my fellow podcasters might say? Are you ready to take on the burden of being a philosopher, of being a Stoic? Only you can answer that question. Carpe diem.
Thank you for listening to The Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review The Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com. And as Steve always says, Carpe Diem.